So, I mean, it's not as exciting as it was a month ago.
Right.
And as I said, if we're struggling to find things to say about the volcano, that's a good thing. And that is the situation now. There's not much happening at the volcano. It's not making plenty noise. I should say that.
All right. Did you do a SO reading this morning? I know we had 108, I think you said yesterday.
Yeah, there was one done on Tuesday. The plan is for one to be done this afternoon
Oh, this afternoon.
at 2.
All right. Someone was asking, does the observatory have a zone? Sorry, that's drone. I think they misspelled it right. Drone. In terms of safety to get a view of the dome, does the observatory have a drone, so to speak?
The observatory has access to a drone via Nemo. Whenever we scanned that dome in the past, in most cases, that was done by a drone, a Nemo drone flown by Cameron Alexander. However, these drones are not really that big, and the range of them is not sufficient for us to not expose ourselves in order to be able to fly that drone. I mean, the drone is flown from the crater rim. So if you're on the crater rim, I mean, you could probably see what's happening in there. Anyway, we don't have a drone that we can fly from a safe area up to the volcano. I think that's we don't have such a large scale or fancy one that's that powerful and that long range.
All right. 4572705. If you have any questions for Dr. Christopher concerning the volcano, 4572705, or you can call us Magic at 516-350-9891. Send your comments, your questions to WhatsApp 4572705. Good morning, Dr. Christopher. Earlier, you alluded that the gas emission is indicative of what is happening down below in the volcano. Can you be more specific, taking into account the 1902 events? And is there a possibility that the activity taking place below is a sign that there may be a repeat of 1902? That's a question coming in on WhatsApp.
Okay, it's very difficult to speak about what the parameters of 1979 or 1902 was, because, as I said, the techniques that we're using now, most of them did not exist at that time, so they weren't applied. So we don't have that sort of data to compare to what we're collecting now. In terms of the 1902 situation, we know it was a bigger eruption than 79, and apparently bigger than this one so far.
Right.
I mean, I guess the question is, will this restart and probably approach the 1902 in terms of the total volume of material? I mean, that's a very good question, which we don't have an answer for. I mean, what the gas tells me is that there's still an engine down there, probably an idle. It doesn't tell me if there's enough gas in the tank for that engine to be able to push the material to the surface. So looking at the sulfur dioxide flux and the carbon dioxide flux gives you an idea of how much if you know how much magma gas is in your magma, then you can work out how much magma is degassing based on the flux of gas that you're collecting. But what it tells you is that you've got magma at different depths. For the sulfur dioxide or the sulfur gases, it would be mid-crustal, around 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers, degassing at that depth. And for the carbon dioxide, it tells me that you've got deeper degassing, probably around 15 up to 17 kilometers deep. So you've got magma degassing more or less along your entire plumbing system. So it tells you that there's material still there. I mean, what it doesn't tell me is if there is enough energy in the system to push that material to the surface. And the fact that it's losing gas means that it's actually losing energy, because gas is actually the driving force behind these eruptions. So if the magma sat there and just lost gas over time, it's going to run out of energy. It's going to crystallize, and it's going to stop becoming a problem for anyone, because it can't move anymore. If it crystallizes, it becomes stiff, and it more or less blocks up the reservoir area and stops the eruption until you get more energy later on for more magma to come and punch through that blockage.
All right. What is the better scenario for St. Vincent, though? A dome forming, or the crater remaining open as it is now?
Right now,
Uh-huh.
well, I mean, if you were to be forming a dome, it means that your eruption is still ongoing. I think the best scenario is for the volcanic activity to stop. As I said, we don't know if there's a dome up there. I mean, if there is one, I mean, it's a totally different situation to if there is none. So that's something we need to try and see, figure out, and see either by an ops flight or I guess sometime in the next weeks or maybe a few months.
All right.
If the team lead on the ground decides that they think it's safe enough for members of the team to go up there, then that decision will be made. But right now, there's a number of unknowns which we don't know, and that is one of them. We don't know if there's a dome in the crater. We don't know if there's a dome that was growing or still is growing. We just don't know.
All right. We have a call on the line. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Iron Glass Soufriere Morning Edition.
Hello, good morning. Johnny P.
Hi, how are you doing?
How are you?
I'm good,
I have a
thanks.
question for Dr. Christopher.
Right ahead.
Good morning, Dr. Christopher. I'm a bit puzzled as to the demarcation of the red zone as it applies to the windward and the leeward side. I see that Fitzhugh and Chateaubriand are not in the red zone, they're in the orange zone. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Whereas Georgetown and Langley Park are in the red zone. Now, as the crow flies, if you go due west from Georgetown, you'll have in Chateaubriand. And to me, having been on that place so many times, that it is actually volcano is closer to Fitzhugh and Chateaubriand than to Georgetown. So I'm a bit puzzled as to why Georgetown is still in the red zone and Chateaubriand and Fitzhugh are not. There had to be some scientific reason.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very valid observation you've made and a very good question. I could also point out to you that Fancy is probably closer to
Yes.
the volcano than Georgetown.
Yes.
But I would also tell you that if you were in any village on this island and La Soufriere generated a big eruption, big enough to push flows down all of the valleys on its flanks, the most likely place you'll get hit by one of these flows is Georgetown. And the simple thing is geography. It's not about physical distance, straight line distance. It's about the geography and the topography of the land. Now, if you look at Georgetown, when you get to the Rabaka, I mean, it gets really flat down there. So if you've got a flow large enough to get to the sea in the Rabaka region, when it gets to the flat area, more or less reaches to that bridge, there will be some lateral motion sideways to the north and south, because the valley isn't deep enough to constrain the flows. Now, saying that, I would also say it's much easier to get a flow down Rabaka than it is to get a flow into Fancy or even into Sandy Bay, because there's the old crater, the old Soma crater, which probably starts at around Orange Hill if you're heading north, and goes back towards past Fancy, and that is protecting that part of the island. So even though they're physically closer, there's sort of a hood at the back of that volcano, which is protecting them. So geography plays an important role. And as you say, for instance, in the place like Chateau and Fitzhughes, there is I think the red zone starts at Darkview Falls. So the idea is you've got the Wallywood River, which is behind the Richmond Academy. And from the Richmond Academy to Darkview Falls is sort of a flattish place. So you expect that a flow or a surge would probably stall somewhere in that area and not climb that little bump to go to Fitzhughes. It's not impossible, but it's less likely than you getting hit in Georgetown. I mean, La Soufriere can generate an eruption big enough that you probably would be in danger in Chateau, Fitzhughes, and Georgetown. Definitely, it can do that. But at the moment, based on the geography of the area, I mean, Georgetown is slightly more exposed, even though it's further away. The geography of the area makes it easier for you to get hit down there, as long as there's a flow down the Rebecca, because Georgetown is flat. You don't have a deep valley. Fitzhughes and Chateau are not that close to the Walibu. They're a bit further south. So I understand what you're saying, but you know, I think my answer would be it's all about the geography and the topography of the land. If you've got physical barriers or hills, they would affect how the flows behave. But once again, as I said, I mean, the volcano can get really big enough or do something big enough that you can't stay in Chateau. You will have to leave because we know you can't do that. But for right now, based on what it's doing, we think Chateau is safe and we think Georgetown is safe at the moment because no flows have reached down to the Rebecca for this eruption. But if it was doing that, then you know you'd have to be worried about flows getting into Georgetown. You know, if it starts to compromise the Walibu River and starts coming south towards the Richmond, then we have to worry about people in Fitzhughes and Chateau, of course.
Dr. Christopher, sorry. I haven't been born, spent most of my earlier life up in the Georgetown area. I'm well aware of the coal crater and the protection of Fancy by the mountain peak and so on. But again, topography plays a part. I know that both areas are flat. Coming from to Fitzhughes is fairly flat, going up to the foothills of Soufriere itself. Similarly, Rebecca, Langley Park is flat. You say that there's not a deep enough trough, but I understand that. There's perhaps not enough trough. But all my life I've known that the end of the Rebecca system is really River Hill, where the last bit of pitch road ended before you get to the village. So, but I know there had to be some scientific reason for it. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the reasoning. You need to understand how these things work. Basically, how we do the zoning is we go and map old deposits and see where different types of hazards would have affected different areas, and you basically more or less draw your boundaries based on where you think stuff will go in the future. You know, this is not foolproof. There are times when it's not really, you know, the best in the best place. There are times when it's probably too conservative, and you want to be conservative, especially when it comes to something like this. You don't want to, you don't want to be, too loose. I mean, being too conservative always helps. I mean, because you're playing with people's lives, so you want to make sure that no one gets hurt.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Christopher. I knew there had to be some scientific.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, let me just say that, I mean, if in the future, because we keep doing these hazard mapping exercises. So if there are new discoveries in the future, those zones might move, shift around a bit. It all depends on what new information is gathered. But for now, these zones are what we're happy with in terms of how we think La Soufriere is going to behave.
All right, caller. Thank you very much for your call.
All right, thank you, Johnny.
Okay. Bye-bye. Doctor, I have a question coming in here. Have the results from samples that were sent, I'm not too sure what samples, if they were rocks overseas, returned, and if so, what references can be made? And then further, are you able to comment on this silica content of the magma?
Okay. Yeah, there's been quite a few. Before the explosions, the only samples that we could speak about were the dome samples, which were collected on the 6th, I think February 6th. I mean, since the explosions, there's been quite a lot of stuff falling from the sky and flowing down these some of these valleys. So we've collected a lot more samples, whether it be ash, airfall, as in the rocks which were falling from the sky, as you saw people displaying in the sound of it videos, these centimeter size pieces of rocks. We've sampled the pyroclastic flows, at least 2 of them, and there will be a lot more sampling that's going to happen. And basically, the sampling is happening for different reasons. There are people who are looking at the chemistry of the material, and there's some people who are looking at the physics of the deposit in terms of how it was deposited, and they're trying to reconstruct the explosions, the explosive events, that sort of stuff, based on how they're seeing these depositions happen. And there's some people who are trying to reconstruct how much ash, trying to calculate the volume of material that fell on St. Vincent and actually, came from the volcano. Totally. In terms of the dome rocks, which were sent away, as I said, we've had that information back for a while. I mean, not in totality, but we had enough information from the bulk rock chemistry to know that the chemistry of it was wrong if it was meant to be a new magma. It was more evolved. I mean, this may sound familiar, me using this word evolved. The dome was more evolved than the 1979 magma, so we knew it was sitting there longer than the 1979. So we knew it wasn't new material. The new material will plot at the other end of the graph. So that is one of the reasons we were saying it was a residue from 1979. It wasn't the fresh magma that was driving the eruption. That fresh magma more or less showed its face on April 9th when the explosion started. So basically what you had was an eruption that produced 2 different magmas, 2 different lavas. The one that built the dome is different to the one that was exploding. I mean, I can't say much about the chemistry of the one that was exploding because we haven't got that information back yet.
Right.
But samples of those have been sent away, and I've got like maybe 20 pounds of it to take back with me as well. So yeah, there's a lot of pillaging going on in terms of the material coming out of the volcano, and there's a lot of stuff a lot of information that we can get from it. The questions I am trying to answer are basically based on the volcanology of the situation. So let me just say that the silica content of this volcano, of the dome, was probably around 65-66%. I don't know what the silica content of the new material is, but I would expect it, as I said, to be less silica rich, given the fact that it's fresher and it should be less evolved.
All right. We have
another.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I was telling you we have another caller on the line.
Yeah, I was trying to explain something. Let me know.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to our Iron Soufriere Morning Edition. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Iron Soufriere Morning Edition. Hello, good morning. I think we lost that caller, Doctor.
Yeah,
but we have a final question here.
Yeah, so what? Let me just finish up what I was trying to say. Right. So for me, personally, the material I'm taking up, the stuff that fell from the sky, not the ash, but the rocks. I'm looking to answer 2 questions because basically this is what I saw happen here, and I'm seeing it now. Well, not now as in today, but after the explosions, it took me a while to figure out what I saw. But this is what I think happened. Basically, this old material, this old residual 1979 material, which formed this dome, it was basically a cap or a plug, and basically capped this volcano, and was retarding the eruption of this new magma, this new fresh magma.
Right.
So there are a number of questions which I want to answer. I think one question is, how long was this new magma sitting there before it could gather enough energy to force the old material out? So I'm going to try and look at that based on the crystal size distribution, looking at the residence times, as they call it. And another important question which I want to know is, did this pulse of magma that erupted, did it come with all of that gas, or was it gassed up because it stalled? Because it had, I mean, that's an important question for people who are going to be working on this volcano in the future. So, for instance, in 50 years' time, if La Soufriere decides to erupt, the individuals who are working here may need to have a better understanding of what the implications of having a dome at the start of the eruption versus not having one. Because it could be said, I mean, some people could argue, I mean, we haven't proven that yet, that if we didn't have this cap, then the eruption may not have been that explosive. The sealing of it caused it to pressurize.
Right.
And that is very important. So, if whenever the next eruption is, whoever the scientists here who are working, and if there's a dome there, then they might approach it very differently if there's no dome. So just to have an idea of how the volcano works, and we need to figure out if the domes on this volcano like to explode as well, which is very important in terms of safety for staff. So there are a number of questions which are going to help for the future monitoring of this volcano.
All right. We have a call online. You take the final call. Hello, good morning. Welcome to our Iron Glass Soufriere Morning Edition.
Good morning. I am curious about something. I want to know if, as an earthquake have the Richter scale, is there anything equivalent to that measures the explosivity of the volcano? And the second thing I want to find out about, how big is our crater? We know popular knowledge tells us it's too big for St. Vincent. So if you could tell us something about that.
Thank you so much for your response.
Let me answer the second question first. The crater is probably maybe 2 kilometers across diameter, I think, thereabouts. I mean, it's not too big for the island, because if it was, it would not. The island would not accommodate it. It's a fairly large and impressive system that you've got, but people need to understand that these volcanoes, they're not really floating on the ocean. They're built from the ocean floor up. So regardless, it's built from the seafloor up. That volcano initially started to erupt from the seafloor and built up, came above land, and then built that mountain. So it extends right down to the ocean floor. So it's a fairly sturdy system, and it's sitting on the ocean floor and supporting itself. So it's not going to be an issue in terms of the size of the island. It's not going to affect the island in such a way that it's too big. With regards to what was the first part of the question again?
The scale on which you measure the
there is a scale which is called the Volcanic Explosivity Index. And basically that is based on the volume of your eruption. For instance, if you erupt like 10 million cubic meters, that would be a very small eruption versus if you erupted a cubic kilometer. So it's based on that sort of idea, is that the more material you chuck out onto the Earth's surface during your eruption, then you've got a bigger eruption. And I think, as I said, I think this was BEI 5 or 6, this eruption, whereas 79 was probably 3. So we know for a fact that this was bigger than 79. I'm not quite sure how big 1902 was, but from the impression I get, this has not reached to the size of 1902. It's definitely larger than
Rather than 79.
79 in terms of the volume of material it produced. So yeah, so it would be a larger number on that scale than 79.
Okay, so you monitor it on the basis of how much material is
The volume of material produced during the actual eruption.
Yeah.
The volume of it. So if it's a larger volume eruption, it's a large it's higher rank on the VEI scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Have a good day.
No problem.
Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah. Thanks. Same to you.
We'll take this final call, Doctor, and then hello, good morning, welcome to our face-to-face program. I think we lost that one. Okay, final question here. With the volcano behaving so strange, can Soufriere relocate and become dormant and form hot springs like St. Lucia, Dominic, or St. Kitts? Final question.
Let me just be clear that as long as it's not erupting, it's dormant. So technically, this volcano was dormant from 1979 up until December last year. I'm not sure what they mean by relocate. The volcano can't really move. I mean, it's going to stay in the position it is. And the vent location might shift around maybe a few hundred meters within that crater.
Right.
I mean, if for whatever reason something drastic happens up there, you might have a large enough explosion or eruption that more or less rips up the crater and reconfigures it. Then you might have a nearby event or parasitic event, as they call them, which is probably somewhere on the flanks. But for it to move full scale, that's not gonna happen. As I said, a few days ago, I think this volcano is not one that lingers on eruptions. I think when it's done erupting, it's gonna just go back quiet and not really, hang around and dig us and rumble and bother people too much. So I kind of get the impression that when it's done, it would be obvious that it's totally done. It's probably on the way to dying down now, but we haven't really seen that sort of information to confirm that. And I think we're hoping that it does that it stays quiet and just dies away quietly and not really bother anyone again with explosions or even a dome. I think it's done enough over the past few months. I think we've convinced ourselves that this volcano deserves respect, and we have to respect it.
On that word, let me thank you very much for being on the program this morning. I understand that you'll be leaving us tomorrow.
Yes, sir. It's tomorrow. I'm not quite sure what time yet, but sometime tomorrow.
Well, let me thank you very much and all the best in your travels, safe travel. And I'm not too sure if you're returning. You're returning anytime soon?
I think the plan is for maybe August, September, based on the rotation.
All right. Well,
but the volcano changes plans as we've seen.
All right.
So.
Well, thank you very much for all the hard work, the information, and all that. And take care.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks.